And welcome to video 5 of my Mac Dev Setup mini-series. If you guys have been following along, we have installed a handful of programs, set up our terminal, and kind of gotten a few IDEs downloaded, and in a general sense, gotten our Mac ready for development, or at least we have programs that will allow us to develop. Now, before we hit the ground running, opening up a terminal and trying to write a program, it is worthwhile to spend a little bit of time and install or set up a development environment for whatever language you are going to be working in. I have done a handful, or I should say I've done a good bit of development in Python, Node, Java. I've also done some Flutter development as well, and each one of these languages has goods and bads and different ways you can set up development environments. So I'm going to go through each one, show you guys my preferred setup, show you how you can set that up in an IDE, and then we'll go from there. So to start, we are going to start with probably the language that I've been working with the most here recently, and that is going to be Python. So, in order to get started, I want to give you guys a little information about Python. It is January 4th, 2020, so Python 2.x should have just been deprecated, but a lot of people still use it, and until people convert everything over to Python 3, there's going to be scraggler projects that still use Python. 2.7 was a really popular version. In addition to that, Python 3 has a whole bunch of different versions. So there's Python 3.6, 3.7, I think there's actually 3.8 now, and each version of Python is a little different, has different dependencies, and it's way too easy to get stuck in a state where you've got more than one installation of Python and you just end up with a mess. The easiest way to avoid all of this is to set up virtual Python environments that you can use. Now, some people like to use Anaconda. I prefer pyenv myself, so that's what I'm going to walk through. So before we get started, let's close out of some junk here. If you guys have been following along, we've actually done a decent amount of setup. So let's close out of all that. First thing we need is pyenv, so that's easiest way to install that is through brew. So brew install pyenv. Let brew work its magic. And this will take a minute. And there we go. So now we got pyenv installed. Once we get that installed, we're going to use pyenv to install whatever version of Python we like. Most of the projects I've been working on are written in Python 3.6.5, so that's what I'm going to start off with. So pyenv install 3.6.5. Now, if you guys have been following along with videos, 1 through 4? I should say 0 through 4. I started with stock macOS, right? So I've got no Python installed other than what comes stock, which means this is going to take a little while to install. So we're going to let this chew through the Python 3.6.5 installation, and I will give you guys a little timestamp to jump forward to whenever this completes. All right, there we go. So we've got Python 3.6.5 installed, which is great. The next step is going to be telling pyenv that we want to use that particular version. So an easy way to do that is pyenv global 365. What this is going to do is tell pyenv to set our global Python version to 365, and to, I guess, demonstrate that point. Mac, I'm not sure about Catalina, and I'm not sure if anything has changed since Python 2 has been deprecated, but Macs used to come with Python 2.7 as their default. So once we do pyenv global 365, version 365 not installed. Oh, that's because I've got an extra period. Sorry about that. We should now get 365 if we look at our Python version, which we do not. Lovely. So there's a handful of scenarios that'll cause pyenv to not work. None of them are particularly complicated. The first one is that your path is not set correctly, which if you echo out your path, you should see shims as one of the first things in your path. In the event you don't, there's two ways to do this. You can either edit your path directly, or you can run pyenv init to begin with. And I'm going to go ahead and, I guess, run that to show the point. So I believe the command goes something to the effect of eval quote $$ pyenv init dash parenthesis $. Parse error. Doop. Yeah, let's give that a shot. So what this is going to do is initialize pyenv so that you can actually use it. And it should automatically fix your path up for you. So if we try again to run global 3.6.5 and then go Python -- version, we should have 365 now. Something to be aware of is this eval statement is going to initialize pyenv for this explicit terminal session, I guess is the right word, in the event you close out of your terminal. And let's go ahead and do that to prove the point. And reopen it. Python should be back to 2 point whatever, as it is. Now, in the event you always want Python or pyenv to initialize as soon as you open up a terminal, all you have to do is add that init to your, I'm going to refer to it as a profile, but your profile for whatever terminal you are using. So if you're just using plain bash, it's going to be your bash RC. If you're using ZSH, it's going to be your ZSH RC. So what you can do is go down to the bottom of whatever profile you're using and type that in. So I'm going to say leave me a comment, pyenv setup, or we're just going to say init. Paste that command, and you should be good to go. So now, if you were to quit out of iTerm, reopen iTerm, oh shit. What did I do wrong? More than likely it's just that parenthesis I forgot. Let's go ahead and fix that. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Blank. try this again. Quit iterm, reopen iterm, and then you get your login, and then Python-version. Python version will probably be set to 365. Perfect. All right, so now we've got pyenv installed. We have installed a version of Python into it, and we have set a global Python version. Now, what happens if we are working on a project and we want to have a virtual environment for that project? What does that process look like? So let's go ahead and go to my development directory and clone down a project, or actually better yet, what we can do is we have DevTools. We'll go ahead and make a directory for virtual environments. So we're going to say virt_env, virtual environments env. All right. So now we should have a environment or a folder for virtual environments. We're going to go in that, and there's not going to be anything there just yet because we made an empty folder. Before we can make a virtual environment, we have to install virtual env from pip. So let's go ahead and do that. That is going to be pip install --user virtual env. This is going to use the global version of Python, which is set to 365, to download virtual environment. My Mac is complaining about my version of pip being out of date, which I'm not terribly concerned about that. If you're bothered by it, you can upgrade pip. I'm not, but I'm going to go next. I'm going to create a virtual environment. So that's done by python-nvm, and then whatever you want your name of your virtual environment to be. So I'm going to say, we're going to call it sandbox for now. Now, something I do want to call out is whenever you make your virtual environment, this sandbox is going to take the version of Python that pyenv is currently using. So since my global version is 365, my sandbox is going to have 365. If I had installed 375 and had set that to my global version, my virtual environment would be using 375. So whenever you want to make your next virtual environment, perhaps using a different version of Python, just switch your global version over, create a virtual environment, off to the races you go. All right, so now I should have a sandbox environment. In order to activate this, you just go source, type in the path to your virtual environment. So mine is going to be development, if I could type, virtual environment, sandbox, and then you have to put bin activate on the end. Now, you will now see I've got sandbox set up here. So now I'm in my sandbox virtual environment. Just to show off what this can do is, let's go ahead and deactivate. Right, so now I'm no longer in my sandbox. If I go pip freeze, or is it pip list? Pip list? Okay, so at my global 3.6.5, I've got pip setup tools and virtual environment installed. If I go ahead and reactivate my sandbox environment, I can go ahead and install something fun. Well, something fairly lightweight to install. Come on, Chrome. Where are you at? New window, please. There is something called terminal colors, I think. Don't know exactly what it is. It's like term color. There we go. Where's our pip install? What the hell is it actually called? Term color. Term color is not particularly important. You can install anything you wanted to. The point I want to show is if I do install something through pip, pip is Python's package manager, I will now have term color installed, and if I go pip list, you will see term color, right, as I'm in my sandbox. But if I exit my sandbox, typing and speaking is hard. Deactivate. All right, deactivate, and then go pip list again, no term colors. The point I'm trying to prove is now you can install whatever you want in your virtual environment, and in the event that you ever screw up a virtual environment, have some sort of dependency hell, you can always blow out your virtual environment and start over, right? This keeps your global Python clean, and then you can have Python environments per project. Makes it nice and easy. Now, that's how you set up virtual environments at your, I guess, terminal level. The next thing that I want to show you guys is if you are working on a Python project in an IDE of choice, how you can mount those virtual environments inside of a Python project. So let's say you're using Pycharm, which I will go ahead and open up. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and clone one of my projects just to show the point. So we are going to go back to development. We're going to make a directory for, I guess, my personal brand, which is coffee, code, and creatine. We'll open that up and make a directory for repos. Is that what we were calling it? I want to keep this consistent. Boink. What did we do in DevTools? We did repos as well. Cool. Sorry guys, bear with me for a minute. All right, so now we're in repos. Let's go ahead and open up Chrome. Let's go to GitHub. .com and go ahead and download something real quick. Oh, that's not the right password. That is. All right. All right. So let's go take a peek at my repos. How do I get to just like my repos? Let's go. Shit. How about my Slackbot real-time messaging API? Yeah, that'll work. We just need a app written in Python. Shameless plug, if you've ever played around with Slackbots, I've got some tutorials up on both YouTube and my webpage about creating Slackbots. I haven't set up anything for Git yet. I do want to go over that with you guys in this video, but we'll do that as a separate piece. So for the time being, I'm just going to download a zip file with this code in it. So let's go ahead and show this in Finder. Grab this lovely little file, copy it. We'll go over to my development and plop it here. All right, so now this should show up here. This is my Slack time real-time messaging API, and so we'll go ahead and go in there. And inside of this, there will be a requirements.txt. If you guys are unfamiliar with Python, all this is it is a list of all of the things that you need to install in order for this application to run. So what we're going to do is just back out a few directories and go to my virtual environments and create a virtual environment for this application. So the command was python-m virtual env, and we are going to say Slack bot real-time messaging API example. Just the name of the repo. All right, go ahead and hit enter. So now we will have two virtual environments. We are going to go ahead and activate this guy like so. And so now we have that virtual environment activated. We are going to go back to my code directory here, and then I can go pip install -r requirements.txt, which will install everything in that requirements file via pip. Okay. So now if you were to go like pip list, you would see Slack client as well as all of its dependencies. And so now if I wanted to, I could run my Slack real-time messaging API example.py just by going python blah. I don't really want to run it, so we're not going to do that, but what I do want to show you guys is how you would set this up in Pycharm. So let's go ahead and open up my project. We will go to development, open this guy up. It opened up in a new window. I'm sorry, my other monitor. So I'll go ahead and send it over to, good Lord. All right. Everybody move over. All right, I'm not too worried about tips. All right, well, to begin with, Pycharm is going to index the project, so we'll background that. We will ignore tips and close out of that. Let's full screen this. We'll let it go ahead and initialize. That shouldn't take terribly long. This isn't a particularly big project, I should say. R interpreter failure. This isn't R, this is Python. Okay, just about indexed. Okay, so a couple things to point out. Number one, this says package requirement Slack client blah is not satisfied. Also down here, this says it's using Python 2.7. This is because this is the system's installation of Python, not our virtual environment that we want to be using. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the preference pane, which you can hit with Command comma. And then not too worried about appearances just yet. I'm going to open up my project, and then I'm going to open up project interpreter. Right, this is using Python 2.7. That's no good. That's not what we want. We're going to go show all. We are going to click this plus to add. And then, so we have virtual env environment. We want to use an existing environment. And then what we want to do is hit our little dots here and go to the virtual environment that we created. So we put that in development, virtual env, sandbox, we want to go to bin, and then we want to go Python 3. Okay? We hit OK. We hit OK. We hit OK. Right, and now you'll see our Slack client 1.2.1, which it was complaining about. We hit apply. And then we hit OK. And then we give Pycharm a minute to catch up. And then what should happen is this little message will go away and this red underline will go away. Beautiful. And you will also see that it says Python 3.6 in our virtual environment. So now you can code away to your heart's content using your virtual environment. And that is probably the easiest way that I know of to set up virtual environments for Python on a Mac. All right. So that takes care of the Python setup. So next thing, we're just going to go down the list. We're going to close out of Pycharm. We are going, you know what, let's go ahead and set up Git while I'm thinking about it, right? So if you guys have ever worked with Git before, there are a handful of different ways that I guess you can authenticate into Git. You can either use HTTPS, which will ask for a username and a password, or you can use SSH, which this is going to tell me I don't have any public SSH keys in my GitHub account. You can add a public key or try cloning this repository via HTTPS. I am going to go ahead and add an SSH key, just because that'll make life a little easier. You won't necessarily have to worry about passwords or any of that junk. So, go ahead and do that. Add a new public key. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I do not remember how to do this, and so like a lot of development is Googling things you don't know. So we are going to go add SSH key to GitHub. Let's see, so this is my GitHub account. You know what? Let's do this. Mac. All right. Okay, perfect. Move this over here. All right, so step one is we have to generate our RSA key on our local MacBook. So you can use SSH keygen in order to do that. So SSH keygen-t RSA. This will create a public-private key pair and our file in which to save. We're just going to go with the default file location, so we press enter. And then we're going to, it's going to ask for a passphrase. I don't really want a passphrase, so again, hit enter. Enter same passphrase again, which is nothing, so we're going to hit enter again. And it's going to make us a little random art image, which we can use for, I actually really don't know what that image is for. But the important thing here is this should have created two files for us, and both are going to live in the SSH directory. One's going to be an ID RSA pub or public. The other is ID RSA, which those are going to be a public key and a private key. Okay, private key stays on your machine. That is something that should be considered secret, and you shouldn't share that with people. The public key is what you can share, and that's what we're going to tell GitHub about. So, a handful of ways you can do this. You can either open the file and copy the contents. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use pb copy, which is going to take whatever file I so choose and dump its contents into my clipboard. So we're going to go into SSH, and then go grab ID underscore RSA dot pub and put that on my keyboard. So now we are going to go back to Chrome and set up an SSH key. So title, I would suggest naming whatever your entry is. something that's going to be a good indication of what device it goes to. So we are going to call this personal MacBook. Okay. Paste the contents of our key and add SSH key. And so now we have our lovely little SSH key. GitHub knows about it, so all is well and good. So now if we go to GitHub and then go grab, let's say, our real-time messaging, we can go clone and we can use SSH. So if everything went to plan, we can go to our development repos. Oops. This Slackbot real-time messaging API example master is the file it was a zip file we downloaded earlier. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Don't need it anymore. And then you can say git clone the repo. It's going to say RSA fingerprint is blah blah blah. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? We're going to say yes. We're going to say yes. It will add that fingerprint to your known list of RSA hosts. That's not the right verbiage. It's effectively, we're effectively telling the Mac that it's okay to talk to that particular host. So we've done that, and now we will never have to worry about typing in passwords for GitHub. It'll all be through that key. And that fingerprint permissions is only going to be the first time you do this. So let's say I want to go grab another repo. So perhaps, which one did I just copy down? Real-time messaging API. Let's grab the events API and grab that git and go git clone, blop, and then it'll download. And then we'll have both. Easy peasy. So that's how you set up Git. All right. Next up, let's just go with something simple. We're going to go ahead and knock out Docker, get that going. So for those who are not familiar, Docker is, I'm going to call it a containerization service. If you are working with an application, it's a nice way to make so what's a good way to describe this in layman's terms? So whenever, so way to think about it. Whenever we were working with the Python project here, specifically the Slackbot real-time messaging API, we had to go in, we created a virtual environment, we installed our dependencies, and then we would have been able to run the app. Well, if you're trying to deploy code to a production system somewhere, you don't want to have to do that manually or write a script that's going to do all that. It's much easier to have an instruction set that says, hey, build a little container, install these dependencies, and then run this application all inside of the container. That is what Docker is. So a lot of production code will use it. Let's go ahead and get that downloaded and installed. Downloading and installing Docker is fairly straightforward. You go to their website, you say get started, you download desktop. It's going to ask you to sign in, which I don't know. Use Docker ID. Let's see if I remember.
It's 10 o'clock.
All right. We're gonna pop this over here for a minute and try a different way of logging in. Actually, you know what? Let's just create an account on my coffee, code, and creatine. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? Code, create a team. I don't know if that's going to show or not. It did not. Cool. Bring that back over here. Agree to some nonsense. I'm not a robot. I'll sign up. That's probably going to tell me to go verify something. Maybe not. All right. Complete your profile. Jacob Daigle. I do not have my own company yet. I'm in the United States of America. I am in Texas. All right. I am a That's lovely. Pretty much all of those. Running Docker in production. Yep, okay. It's gonna tell me to go look at an email. We're gonna do that really quick. I was already logged in Safari, so we're gonna use that. And we're gonna confirm my email. And there we go. So I have now set up my Docker account. Let's go back to their web page. Sign in. And there we go. Get started with Docker Desktop. Download Docker Desktop for Mac. All right, we're downloaded. Open this guy up. All right. I had my little drag and drop install interface show up again. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody at this point if you have been following along with all the previous videos. And we should be installed and ready to go. So let's go ahead and kick off Docker. Docker app is an app downloaded from the internet. We want to give it permission again. It needs privilege access, so we'll go ahead and grant that. And then there we go. Docker is going to set up. It's going to want us to sign in, which you really don't have to, for what it's worth. It's just they want you to. As it stands right now, Docker is running. You can actually use it without signing in. So not too big a deal. We'll let it start up and then we'll poke it on a terminal. All right. Looks like we are all nice and started up, which is good. And then just for a bit of fun, I'm going to show you guys a little script that I normally like to keep on my development machines, I suppose. So first things first, Docker's running. Hooray, let's go to our command line and say, hey Docker, are you there? Which it is. Excellent. And then we are going to go back to my dev tools and we are going to make a repository called, actually if I was smart, I would do this in a GitHub repo. Oh well, we'll figure that out later. All right, well, we'll go into scripts, and then we will go, we're just going to use vi now for now, and we are going to go fry docker.sh. And so what this is going to be is, as you work with Docker, you are going to create images, you're going to create containers, you're going to download some, and it will be inevitable that you will eventually end up in a state where you'll have a corrupt container that you'll need to delete, or you'll run out of memory on your machine because you have so many containers. Like, you're eventually going to come across a state where you want to remove all of your images and containers all in one go. This is where this little script comes in. This will quite literally fry all the things. So in the event you're familiar with shell scripting, excellent, bear with me. In the event that you are not, this is just going to be a little shell script, which as we've been typing things in our terminal, this is just going to be a file that lists out a set of instructions one after another that we can run the file and it'll execute all those instructions together. Also referred to as shell scripting. This line up here is commonly referred to as a shebang line, I suppose. Just lets your computer know this is a shell script. So first we're going to say echo, we're going to say starting Docker. Actually, you know what, we'll just say cleaning out all Docker files. And then we're going to go Docker images, semicolon, Docker rm -f dollar parenthesis Docker ps -a-q. And then we're going to go Docker rmi, which removes images if I recall correctly. And then we are going to go $ parenthesis Docker images -q. And then I think that's just about it. Then we can say echo, and we're going to say removed all Docker files. We should put some semicolons at the end of these, like so. And then we'll exit. So now we have a nice little shell script. Whenever you go to create a shell script, so a little more computer context, each file on your Mac has a specific set of permissions. I'm not going to get too far into those. What you need to know here is your fry Docker script will need to have execute permissions. Way you do that is chmod plus x. So chmod is a utility that allows you to change permissions, plus x allows execution, and then we can go fry Docker. Right, it turns red. So now if we run this lovely little script, there's nothing to remove, but in the event there was, it would remove all of these images for us. So nice script to keep handy, and I will give you guys a copy of that in the description down below. The other piece that y'all may or may not find handy is setting up aliases through your bash profile for certain scripts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the path to this. Actually, what's going to be the best way to do this? Let's do this. I'm going to have a fully qualified path to this script and then place that as an alias inside of my zsh rc file. So what this is going to look like is we are going to go squiggly / development devtools scripts fry docker. Right, this will allow me to run it from anywhere on my Mac. We're going to copy all this goodness. We are going to open up our rar, quit arguing with me. Vi, what the hell? Trying to autocomplete. It's not doing very nice things to me. All right, we want to go vi.zshrc, like so. Go down to the very bottom. Leave ourselves a little comment. We're going to say user alias. And then in order to set up an alias, it goes something to the effect of alias. We're going to call this fry docker. Paste the line that we typed out here. And then now we will have an alias to remove all of our Docker images that we can run from anywhere in the event we ever need it. So I'm now going to quit out of that. If you guys have been following along in my previous video, I mentioned that anytime you change your ZSHRC, you either need to resource it or restart your terminal. I'm just going to be lazy and restart my terminal. Right? So I've got a new terminal instance, and then if I go fry docker, it will run that script, and that gives me a nice easy way to clean out all the Docker containers and images should I ever need to do so. Up next, we are going to go ahead and knock out the Java portion of this tutorial, because this will go pretty quick. But as it stands right now in industry, I guess by and large, there's Java 8 and Java 11. And for the most part, Java isn't too much like Python in the fact that you can have different versions that conflict and argue with each other. For the most part, you can have Java 8 and Java 11 installed on your machine and pick whichever one you want to use to either run a jar or develop with. Java 8, I believe, is still free for developer usage, but in production, they are now charging an arm and a leg for it. Oracle is actively trying to, I guess, deprecate Java 8, and so Java 11 is kind of the way to go nowadays. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and install and then set up in IntelliJ. So let's go ahead and do that. I've already opened up a tab for oracle.com. We will go to Java SE. There is 13.0.1 and then there is 11.0.5. 11.0.5 is listed as LTS or long-term support, so that's what we're going to go ahead and go with. So we are going to download that and get a whole bunch of garbage that pops up. We're going to accept the license agreement, and then we are going to download. We're just going to go with the DMG directly. And I believe it's going to ask me to sign in. Let's go ahead and log in. Okay, and now we are downloading our installer. So we'll let that download real quick. Here recently I've been doing some React development, and I've been wanting to learn React Native, so I might skip the Flutter install on my machine, but I will give you guys some notes and some documents on how to go about installing it. If anyone was looking at this video specifically for the Flutter installation or wanted to learn about Flutter, let me know and I can make a video for you guys, but I think I'm going to go ahead and forego that today. All right, looks like our download completed. And we'll have a little package that we'll open up to install. Right, it's going to install some goodies, it's going to take some memory, it wants to install new software, so it's going to ask me for my fingerprint. And we should be good to go. Go ahead and move the installer to the trash, we don't need to hang on to that. Take that off the to-do list, and then, so I believe at this point in time we should be good to go as far as Java development-y things go. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up IDEA. We are going to, I don't know, create a new project. Okay, so we've got Java, Java 11. It's going to be, I don't really want to make a full straight up project. I just wanted to run a Java hello world sort of deal. Should probably be able to do that. We don't want to create one from a template. Project name. I'm just gonna go call this sandbox for now. And we are going to place this in my make a little folder called Java Sandbox. We're going to delete this after, so I'm not too worried about it. Hit finish. And that took me to my other monitor again. Don't want tips. Alright, so here is our Java IDE. It looks like we are indexing an empty project, which isn't anything too crazy. We've got our source, which is good. And we're just going to go ahead and write a little hello world program just to make sure we can run everything and make sure everything linked up correctly. So if you guys are familiar with Java, this will be pretty straightforward. For those who aren't, this will be your basic hello world program. So we're going to go hello world.java. Save that. Okay, so now we have our class. And let's go ahead and make our function. So public static void main string args array. And this, and then we're going to go system.out.println hello world. All right, now I should just be able to right click and go run. And this will use the Java SDK we downloaded and installed. And there we go. Hello world. Beautiful. All right. So that takes care of the Java side of things. I'm going to go ahead and remove that as we don't need that. I just wanted to make sure our install worked. I'm also going to go remove it from my terminal. Repos and -rf Java sandbox. All right, there we go. That takes care of Java. Last thing on the list is the Node installation and Node version manager. Last, but certainly not least, is Nvm. So in the world of Python, we installed pyenv to allow us to switch between multiple versions of Python relatively easily. Nvm is kind of the same thing. It's Node version manager, so it allows us to switch easily between different versions of Node. So whenever we're working on different projects, where one might have one version of Node and another might have a higher or lower version, we can switch over without too much of a headache. Most of the kind of instruction manuals you are going to see online work with a straight, I guess, bash terminal. We're using ZSH, so we're going to have to change things up just a touch. But to get started, Pretty much all of the help docs you're going to find are going to give you this command or some variant of it. This curl, pull down, and install. Now, we're going to go ahead and run this. And this should go pretty quick. Looks like we're in the middle of an install. Looks like we're trying to run an install script. It's actually not really what I expected. Quit. There we go. Alright, so we downloaded, we cloned, and it looks like we did all of the things. So now at the very bottom of the OK string already in. Okay, so I actually expected this to get upset. It looks like Node is going to play nice with ZSHRC, so that's great. Close and reopen your terminal or run the following. So more than likely, what happened is the script tried to stick this in our ZSHRC, so we're going to make sure that's there in the event we need it. Or we will need this in the ZSHRC, but we're going to copy and paste it over here in the event it is not there and we have to add it ourselves. So let's go ahead and quit iTerm and reopen it and make sure everything worked the way we expected it to. NVM. Beautiful. So we have Node Version Manager. Just because I'm curious, I want to know where I put those node lines. Okay, it stuck them at the very bottom. Excellent. Okay, so now we have NVM, which is our Node Version Manager. And now we actually want to install Node. So this is going to be Nvm Install Node. So as a, I guess, little bit of information here, Nvm Install Node will download and install the latest version of Node. --LTS will download and install the latest long-term support version. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, version is required. Computing, checksum match. Okay, so now if we go node -- version, we should have 12.14.4. Perfect. So also let's make sure we have Node Package Manager as well. We might need to install that. Looks like we've got Node Package Manager as well. Perfect. So now what we have done is installed Node Version Manager, Node, and then Node Package Manager out of the box. And just to kind of show that everything is tied together and working, here will be the Hello World application of React. We're going to go to Coffee Code and Creatine again. We're going to make a directory for Node Sandbox. Jump in that real quick. And then we are going to go npm install -g for global, and then create React app. This is going to be a what is the word for it? Generator for React apps that will make a basic skeleton. So we're going to go ahead and download that. Looks like we picked up Create React App 3.3.0. Perfect. And so now we should be able to go npx create React app, and we'll call it, I don't know, Sandbox app. This will build me out my own little React application. and then we should be able to run it. It's going to take a minute to download a whole bunch of dependencies and goodies. So in Python, where we had a requirements.txt file, in this particular case, for node projects, you'd have a package.json file which would list out all the packages you need to install and what the particular version is. And so Create React App is going to be downloading and extracting all of those packages. Okay, so far so good. All right, excellent. So it gives us a little bit of help in the event we're unfamiliar with npm, but we are going to go ahead and jump into our application that it built us. And so there's that package.json, if you guys were interested in it. Right, so it lists out all of the dependencies that we would have. But if we go npm start, this should go ahead and start up the sample application. And development mode will allow. And so here's our sample React app. So that, I guess, concludes the Node version manager, Node package manager piece, and also shows that we've got everything working together. We've got Node and React playing nice. So this was a bit of a long video, but we covered a lot. We went over Python, we went over Node, we went over Docker and Java, which gives a, I guess, front-end, back-end view of the world, and should be enough to get you guys started in Dangerous building out various applications. Thanks for watching.